This is Kishan here from schools. Welcome all to the webinar of schools. We are as such India's first online marketing platform to help schools to promote themselves with close to around 75 features and get leads for their admission. So in this process, we do conduct webinars on every Wednesday and Friday between 4 and 5 p.m. to engage people in various information from our noted people who are in the education industry. And today we have Ms. Anupama who will be helping us in a lot of information, which will really be a very good platform for us. And I will probably just give a small introduction about Anupama. Anupama is a professional psychological counselor and parenting coach with a rich experience in the field of applied psychology. Her ability to assess situations in a practical, clear, and empathetic manner has helped in developing rapport and maintaining relationships with her clients over the years. She believes in constant skill enhancement as well as empowering people to find their own unique and effective solutions to resolve their concerns. Over the last decade, she has been associated with schools and colleges in Bangalore and Chennai, both as a counselor and facilitator, conducting a variety of workshops in soft skill development, communication skills, career guidance, and others alike. As a mother of two young adults, she loves spending time with her family, a yoga enthusiast, a novice marathon runner, and a dancer. She enjoys playing badminton and listening to music in her free time. A registered practicing counselor with Chennai Counselors Foundation. She is currently a counselor at Chennai Mathematical Institute and an associate parenting coach with Parent Circle Chennai. I see a lot of accolades with Anupama. Thanks, Anupama, for giving your
It's
time
a
for
very
us.
nice welcome, Kishan. Thank you so much for having me today.
So thanks a lot. And I would be probably handing over to my colleague Sangram to just give a 1 minute or a 2 minute run through about our platform. And then probably the stage will be yours.
Yeah, thanks a
Yes.
lot, Kisan. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just share something about our platform, the portal schools. Let me just share the screen first. Yeah. So our platform schools is a platform where we onboard different schools from different parts of Bangalore at this point of time, and we'll expand to across the country, where at any point of time, if a parent is looking for a school for the children, so they can directly go there and type the locations where they're present, and they will find the nearby schools they're looking for. So, for example, we have 75 features in this platform, and the schools can upload their pictures as well as videos, so that if the parent without physically going to the schools, they can virtually have an experience about the school and the facilities they're providing. And I'll just take you through. And here we can search the school, and we can compare one school with another school. At any given point of time, we can compare 3 schools, their facilities, their fees, and other details. For example, Harvest International School. So here we can understand what is the school details and the fees details. From the gallery, we can see the pictures and the contact number. Right hand side, we can see the contact number, the email ID. So directly we can contact to the schools, and also other details like whether type of school, then annual fees, what is the minimum age of admissions, all the details, what are the board, and from which grade to which grade classes are there. So all the details about the school and what are the sports, outdoor sports, indoor sports, co-curricular activities, all the details we can see from our portal. So at this point of time, we have 170 schools onboarded on the platform, and by end of December, will be more than 1,000 plus schools will be there on the platform, so that it will be very easy for the parents without going to different website of schools. Coming to our platform, they can actually explore all the schools in their locality. So this is all about our platform. Thank you very much. Over to Kishan. Thank you.
Thanks, Sangram. That was really good. Thanks for sharing that information about our platform. So probably now the time is to give over the stage to Ms. Anupama for her sharing the information.
There are a few, prerequisites when we come in for a webinar, especially when we have a webinar which is supposed to be very interactive. And I really would like to keep it interactive so that you and I can both learn at the end of this 1 hour, in which case you need to ask me a lot of questions so that I can learn and you can also learn. Please do remember that there is no question which is silly or trivial or not important. Each and every question that you ask or what you even think of asking is important, because we can all learn from it. So I really look forward to interacting with each and every one of you. And yeah, if any one of you has any questions before we start, we could start with that, or else I'm just going to go ahead with the presentation for the day. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so today's overview, we're going to see what emotions are. Then we go on to what you mean by the circle of security. When we talk about emotional balance, what exactly do we mean by the emotional balance? What is SIFT? And the integrative communication, which is expected as a parent and as an adult, what do we mean by integrative communication? Okay, so this is the general overview of what we would be seeing today. So as we start, I would like to know from each of you, do you know what emotions are? What are the basic emotions and what are emotions? You can please type it out in your chat box, or if you can unmute and answer, that would be wonderful. Anybody? Okay, so Asha says emotions are feelings, how we feel. Preetham, it's attachment. Okay, wonderful. Vani says it's how we react. Yes, sharing one's feelings. Yes, emotions and feelings are often used as synonyms, but they are not synonyms at all. They are very, very different. Emotions are physical states that arise as a response to external stimulus. So anytime that we see an external stimulus, how do we react? The physical state that we are in, that is referred to as an emotion. So if you look at the picture in front of you, these are the basic 6 emotions that we all go through. In fact, from the time a child is born, they feel these emotions. Having shared 6 emotions with you, which are fear, anger, surprise, happy, disgust, and sad, do you know which is the first feeling a baby feels when they are born? Or one of the first few feelings that they get when they are born? What do you think a child or a baby feels when a baby is born? What? Fear? Yes, fear is one of the feelings that they could possibly get. What else? Surprise. Okay. Love is okay. Love is not featured here anywhere. It's more. It's a more defined form of an emotion, which we would be coming to. Shock. Yes, probably in a way there could be shock. There is a mix of fear, and anger when a baby is born, because they are suddenly out into this world. So there's a huge amount of distress that a child goes through, a baby goes through. And so there is a mix of fear and anger. By and large, cross-culturally, these are the kind of emotions that have been shortlisted. All of these are there in all babies, but they show it at varying milestones, actually. So when a baby is born, in fact, while we love our babies to look at us and smile at us, it doesn't happen before 3 to 4 months when they start recognizing our faces and they sort of smile. Disgust comes in much later. They probably do it only by the age of 4 or 5. In fact, even when tastes do not come in, that's when disgust comes in, when they're like, yuck, it's horrible. So that comes in much later. Sad, yes, sad is a emotion that they do exhibit. Happy comes in by 3-4 months, and surprise comes in when they learn to play. So, when the toy suddenly disappears and then you show it back, that's surprise. That's what they actually see when they see a toy, which is, they just thought it's vanished. When they suddenly see this toy come back, that's when they learn the idea of surprise. Most of the emotions that babies exhibit are mirroring what you as a parent would be showing to them as well. So the basic emotions, what has been understood is that despite the culture, globally, these are the emotions that all babies, all human beings exhibit. So there's never a case where somebody, when they're happy, have a sad face, or when they're happy, have a fearful face. It's always in tandem with the expressions that we show. So if you see, in a sense, emotions are very, very essential to human interaction. And that's how our relationships are also formed. Even with yourself, if you try to understand your own emotions, then you sort of get a better understanding of who you are, what you are, how you think, what is it that you were actually feeling, or what you were, what was going on in your mind at that point of time, because from emotions, we get feelings and then thoughts. So that's the general progression of how we process. So these are the basic emotions. And as we grow, as children grow, these emotions can sort of be bifurcated into a much bigger wheel called the emotion wheel. So if you actually look at it, the central wheel is what we all associate the maximum with emotions. But as children grow, from the time they are, I think by the time they're in second standard, they've sort of got an understanding of the basic 6 emotions. But as parents, we can always teach them more vocabulary, more ways of understanding the slight differences between being anxious and being scared if there is a fear. Or even if you're looking at being happy, there is a difference being joyful and peaceful. In fact, if you ask, they found that when they ask somebody in the Western countries what they mean by happy, the first word that came to most people's mind when they said happy was ecstatic. Oh, I am ecstatic. I'm very happy. I feel liberated. That's the feeling. That's happy. But if a person in Japan is asked what is happy, they probably tell you it's peaceful, or they just feel very loving and very at ease with things. So the same emotion can be bifurcated, can be made more threadbare. In fact, many a times, it is very important that while we understand our emotions, we are unable to come down to our base emotions. So from the emotion that is being exhibited here, we can always work backwards. So if I ask all of you here today, how do you feel? What is the emotion that you feel, which is there with you right now? And why do we have these emotions? I'll come to that. But can each of you identify with one particular emotion or a couple of emotions that are here on the screen at this point of time? You can put it in the chat box, or you can write it down, or you can at least make a note of it as to, these are the, yes, optimistic. Asha feels very optimistic right now. Great. Which is part of happy. Peaceful, happy. So all of my audience is very happy. I'm really happy to see that. Any other emotion that you could think of? Calm. Great. So you're feeling joyful. Yes, today we have emojis, which are, or emoticons, all showing our emotions. So yes, Kiran, we are all in a happy state today. None of us feel angry or surprised or fear or disgusted by anything that's happening on the screen. So why exactly do we feel emotions? From the time we have actually, a man has evolved, We have always been alert to our surroundings. So our emotions are our first step to understanding our threats and opportunities. What is happening around me, even without you realizing, it's a very instinctive thing. You just react. You just look at something which is very funny, you just laugh, you feel happy suddenly. So these are emotions which happen very unconsciously, which are very much within you. Whereas if you actually look at what feelings are, now, many of you felt that emotions are feelings. Feelings are the mental associations and reactions to emotions. So if you actually look and say, okay, I'm feeling hungry, or I'm feeling mad, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling sleepy. Now, many of the feelings that we have are related to our senses, and most of the feelings are also related to the emotions that have unconsciously or instinctively gone within us. So you can find a correlation between some of our emotions and some of our feelings. Like if you look at sad, you will find, guilt and shame and bored, which should probably be there as emotions as well. But as feelings, you would find that they are quite different. You don't find daring as an emotion, whereas daring is joyful, is excited, you feel, adventurous. All these are again different formats of feeling, which is just a reaction to the emotion. And that's why they are there, because we need to understand how our surroundings are, how our circumstances are, how do I want to react to this. We don't all react the same way. We look at something, each one has their own way of reacting to some particular circumstance, and the entire reaction comes out in the form of our behavior, which is what people see. So what we are feeling, what is the emotion that is underlying in each one of us, can sort of be assessed by what we exhibit in the form of an external behavior. Okay, am I clear so far? Any doubts? Anyone has any questions? Please stop me at any point. I can keep rattling on, but I would really love to hear what you have to say. If you have any questions, please do ask me. Thank you, Asha. Okay, so if I have to ask you now, when you look at the feelings wheel, and I would, the reason why we have an emotional wheel or we have a feelings wheel is it's very important that before we start connecting with people around us, before we start developing a balance or an emotional connect with people around us, we need to have a connect with ourselves. Because any connection it's, when we travel in a flight, and there's a turbulence, these oxygen masks fall down, and the first thing the pilot tells you is, please wear the oxygen mask for yourself and then help your baby or help the person next to you. Now, emotions are very, very similar to that. So unless and until you are helping yourself in understanding yourself, understanding what is going through you, it is very, very difficult that you're going to be helping somebody else. It could be your child, it could be your spouse, it could be your mother, it could be anybody who you want to help. But unless and until you yourself know what you're going through, it's very, very difficult for you to relate to somebody else. Tarun, you've asked whether thought can lead to emotions. Okay, so when we actually look at thoughts are a part of our limbic system, which is in our brain, where we can go back and have a memory and we can think of something. Yes, they do lead to certain kinds of emotions, but by and large, the thought also would have been triggered by something which you have seen or something which you've heard or something which you've smelled. Suddenly you smell some food item which your mother made or something. Now that has been triggered. So there's always an external stimulus which can lead to an emotion. So of course, there are thoughts which can lead to emotions. You see pictures, you see, you've taken photographs of a holiday and you suddenly remember something, you feel happy. Yes, thoughts, memory all come in. You have visual medium which can be used. You have print media which can be used. When we see movies, we do, feel nostalgic at times. We think of some, it triggers off something in our mind. So yes, all thoughts can, all memory can be triggered and emotions can come about from there as well. So when we look at feelings, you will find that you would be able to identify with many of these feelings because you would have gone through it at some point of time. It's not that we are always happy or we are always feeling peaceful or mad or sad, but when we go through it, are we able to identify it as saying, okay, I'm feeling, very irritated right now. Okay, I'm feeling irritated. Irritated comes under being mad, which is hateful. But what am I irritated about? Now, when we start moving backwards, we start understanding our emotions as well. So the forward process is to go from emotions to feelings to our behavior. The backward process is to go as to why did I behave this way? And we move back. Okay, so that's as far as emotions and feelings are concerned. Now, if you look at a child, as at a baby, or at, many of you have children who are probably 2-3 years old or older or younger. For any child, even for us, when we look at our parents, we always look at them as our security blanket. For a kid especially, the parents form the world. And we look at them as somebody who we need to be around there. So Diana Payne was the first one, she's a doctorate, who came out with this concept that children need to be seen. They like to know that their parents are around them, that they are there to see what they are doing. But by the time the child is 3 years old, they want to see the world around them. They're growing up. They need to understand, okay, fine, what am I seeing around me? And you need to be okay to send them out to play, even if it's in the park, or you go to somebody's house, or you're going traveling by train. Of course, a lot of these things don't happen today because of the COVID, but at some stage when they do happen, you would be ready to send your child out to say, okay, fine, go and play in the park, go on the swing, go on the slide. The child needs that. The child needs the confidence from you to be able to move, to be able to go. But at the same time, they would like you to have an eye on them, to keep a watch on them. So it's very, very important that when a child goes, you keep watching, because as parents, we do understand that they go through a lot as far as their behavior is concerned. But when it comes to the internal organizing of their emotions, they are just not in control of it. So even if a simple thing happens to the child now, for example, as you can see in this picture, the child is gone, the child is playing, and the child falls. What happens? The child will come running to you. How do you react? How are you going to handle this situation? What is the emotion that goes within you? So each of us are built with our own palette, because we come from parents who have reacted in a particular way, which we have observed, which we have imbibed. So we are going to behave in a particular manner. So what is it that we are going to do? Either we can say, oh my God, my baby is upset, my baby is, hurt, and take the child and go home. Or you can say, no, nothing in this. What is there? You have to become rough and tough. You have to face the world. Just give a brush to the child and say, go back and play. What else can you do? What are the other options left in front of you? Is there an option that you can take? Yes, the second one is very good, Benu. If you want the child to feel rough and tough and very ready to go out into the world and say, yes, I have to face the world. So what if I'm hurt? But if the child is hurt, what is it that the child needs? The child needs solace. The child needs soothing. So invariably, we see that when a child needs soothing, when they are going through negative feelings, when they're going through any bout of negative emotion, they need soothing from the parents. They need it to be brought down. The entire buildup of emotion which is there within them has to be brought down. It has to be lowered first. Yes. So when it's only after we lower it, we bring it down, that we are able to relate to them. When they're happy, when they're exuberant, we can definitely magnify it. We can make it a big thing and say, yes, you're happy, you're a champ, and you can bring that up. But when a child is hurt, when a child is going through some rejection, something negative, what happens is they just want you to be there with them. All you need to do is ask them, I saw you falling down. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Is it paining too much? When you start talking to them, you start exploring with them what is it that they feel. You start guessing. Many times in the situation, it's okay to guess also as to what they're going through, because they're going to correct you and say, no, it's not really paining so much, but you know what? I don't mind a Band-Aid. That's what they want. They just want that 2 bits of you saying, okay, you're hurt, you want a Band-Aid. Is it really paining you inside? You talk to them, you ask them, are they hurt? Are they worried? Are they disappointed? Are they scared of something? The minute you start exploring it with them, they start looking at, okay, my parent is listening to me. My parent is trying to understand me. They're trying to figure out what I'm going through. And automatically you will find that once you are providing them that space, that time to open up and talk about what they're going through, if it's an older child, if it's a younger child, just keep them and ask them, is it hurting? I saw you were playing, you were having a good time playing, what happened? You ask them to explore, ask them to go through what they went through. They were on a branch or they were on the slide and suddenly they fell. Ask them what they went through and then ask them, you want to go back? Would you like to go back and play? What, why don't you try another round of playing, and then we can see whether you want to go home if your leg is hurting. Give them options, give them opportunities to continue their exploration, because the minute you give them that, then they feel they are in command. They feel they are in control. Okay, I can manage this. Let me try it out once more. My parents are here. They are listening to me. They can see me, and I feel secure with them. I feel soothed when they are there. I know I'm safe if they are here. I can always come running back to them, because whenever I'm with them, they delight with me. They are ready to help me. So the 4 S's that Dr. Diana Payne talks about when she talks about the circle of security is to be seen. The child likes to be seen by the parents. They should know that the parents are around. Many a times parents believe that seen means you just have to come and stand in front of the child. Not at all. You could be a work from home parent. You could be working. You may be on the phone all the time. Your child may be sitting outside and playing. You may just walk across for a glass of water. You just look at your child and say hi, or, a thumbs up, or just blow a kiss. It's fine. It's enough for the child to know that they're being seen. So seen is a very, very important part when we're providing security to the child. Same way when we soothe the child, when we are showing them that, I'm there. You don't need to worry. All your bigger problems, we can sort it out. So they feel that, okay, fine, I feel safe. This is my haven. This is my world. And I know I feel welcome to come here. This is my security blanket. So like I have given below, most parents, we are able to recognize that, they need to organize their behavior. They need to organize how they conduct themselves. A lot of emotional intelligence is involved in the behavior. How do I organize my behavior? But what actually is required is to organize their inner world, which is their feelings, which they have absolutely no clue how to. So when they don't know how to do that, the only person they know to is to come to you. And at that point of time, you can only help them out if you yourself are in a position to look at what is happening, to know what is happening, and to be able to relate to the child as to what's happening. So when we look at the circle of security, first we need to see, are you balanced out emotionally? Which is where the entire topic comes about, on the emotional balance, on how we are as parents need to maintain our emotional balance and not get carried away by the situation. So let me just give you a simple example. You're at a playground with your 4-year-old when you get an important phone call that you have to take. Okay, so you step aside from your child to answer the call and your toddler starts chanting, "Mummy, mummy, mummy." Now, what are the options that you would take? So the first option is you say, "Mummy needs to talk on the phone for a minute. I'll be right back." And for all the fathers over here, please just substitute mummy with daddy. I'm really sorry, I had to give an example. So it's as simple as that. Option B, let the phone call go to the voicemail, pay attention to your child and return the call as soon as possible. So this is another option that you can take. And option C is answer the call, put it on hold. And while you spend about 30 seconds suggesting a new and imaginary game to your child, and then explain that you will join the game after you finish the phone call. Okay, so these are the 3 options in front of you. And each and every option, there is no right and wrong about the option. These are things that anyone would do depending on how important the phone call is and you're spending time with your child. So as participants, I would like to understand from you, what are the options you would go in for? A, B, or C? C. Okay, anybody else? C. Wonderful. All of you are going with option C. Any particular reason that you prefer option C? Vani, Asha, Hanslata, Venu, Shima. Shima, you've come up with option B. Okay, so now that you've all volunteered your options, I need you to give me your explanations as well. Just to understand your perspective, because as parents, each of us would have our ideas. You are directly or indirectly taking permission for taking time out of the child's timing. Okay, it's more appropriate. Vani, yes, it's appropriate. If you can elaborate, that would be very helpful. Shima, you said option B. Would you like to explain? It's the best among the three options. Okay. See, as an option, yes. But what would you do? Do you think you would do this? Shima, you said option B. Yes, actually, it depends on. There are only two factors it can depend on. One is how important is the phone call and how important is your time with your child. So option A is the phone call is very important. And option B is your child is very important. Yes, exactly. And option C, it benefits both of you. It also tells your child that while you are attending the call, the child is also important. So option C, as all of you had gone ahead and initially started off with, is the best option because the child also understands the value of your time. You just tell them, I'll be back. I'm going to take this call. And then you're giving them something to do, which means that you are involved with the child as well. So you are allowing them to explore. You just tell them, you know what, it's so cold today. Let's start a fire. Why don't you collect a few sticks and stones and I'll join you in 30 seconds or, in some time. So you are giving them something to do. You're not just leaving them to, play on their own. You know that the child is going to do something. You are asking them to do something. So option 3 is ideally the best option. Of course, like Vani said, it depends on the circumstances as to how the surroundings are. If the surroundings are safe, if you are feeling comfortable doing it, a lot of it is, of course, dependent on that. But it's ideal to answer the call because you may have to take the call. What you speak on the call is your choice. But option C is by and far the best option that one can take. So I hope so far I have been very clear. Any doubts, please do ask me. It's very pertinent. Okay, all good. It's very important that that we are on the same page because as we go ahead, I'm going to be exploring more with you. So these are just the basics. So we are good so far. Great. Okay. Now, this is how our brain processes any kind of information that comes to us. Okay, so if we look at our brain, which is the below picture, we have the thinking brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is right in front of the forehead, and the forehead takes a long time to develop. It develops for every individual only by the age of 24, 25. It starts development from the time the child is born or by the time the child is a few months old. However, the entire processing of making a decision, of analyzing, being able to calm your emotions, everything happens much later in life, but that's the thinking brain. And as you can see, the thinking brain is fantastic when there's very low stress. The emotional brain is actually the mammalian brain, which is, as mammals, we all have very high emotions. The thinking brain is very, very specific, it's more evolved in human beings, whereas the emotional brain is what triggers in or what kicks in whenever there is any situation or anything which highlights our circumstances. So that's what actually starts off. It's actually the reptilian brain, which is right behind over here, which sort of triggers. The emotions start running high, and in stress, that there is a complete disconnect between emotions and thinking. So as you can see, we always have three minds. As the names itself suggest, wise is how one should be. It's the wisest situation that we can be in. But normally, if you see, as adults, we believe that we should be very rational. So we end up making, we try to make sense of every situation that is there. Whenever there is a situation that arises, we like to look at the logic of it. We like to, therefore, suppress our emotions at that point of time. We don't do things on a whim. We like to calculate. We like to see that everything is being covered. And as parents, we tend to feel more regarding doing this because we feel more responsible as well, right? And as we think about things, we go with our experiences because that's how we build our way of thinking. We always go with history. This is how it was before, and this is what happened, and this is how I'm going to continue doing it. And that's exactly what happens in our rational brain. So we start thinking very logically. We start focusing on facts. These are the facts, and this is what they told me, and this is what I know, and this is what the paper has said. And so this is exactly what it is. Whereas that's not how the emotional brain thinks. The emotional brain is completely reactive. Something happens, tuck, 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 you have to do something else. So this is how we tend to react. This is how we tend to work. And we always like to have a feel-good factor. We like to feel comfortable. At the end of the day, when I asked you, how do all of you feel? You all felt happy. It's a feeling that we all like. It's a feeling that we all want to be in permanently. In fact, we can't, but we'd like to be in that. It's not possible for us to be happy or good 24/7. We do go through ups and downs. We do go through these emotions right through the day. We have roller coaster days when we just come back feeling very dull and drained, but we don't even give in to it. We don't even allow ourselves to think about it because we have so much work piled up. And then our rational brain kicks in and says, you know what, you don't have the time to feel tired. Just get up and start cooking dinner or do something else. And therefore your emotions are completely suppressed. You don't give space for those emotions. And why do we need emotions? Because that's a way of survival. We need emotions for our survival. We need emotions for building our relationships. Every relationship is built on emotions. So unless we give space, unless we give time to our emotions, unless we are able to understand our emotions, it is just not going to happen. We are only going to keep piling it on, till probably one day there's just going to be a burst. Or if you have the ability to spend time with yourself, then you're able to sort out your emotions. You're able to sort out what's happening in your mind. So therefore, at any situation, what would be ideal is to follow a wise path, which is striking a balance between the rational and the emotional mind. You have to be mindful. I think it's a catchword today. Almost everybody uses it. Every health professional, mental health professional says, be mindful, be aware of what's going through you, be aware of what's happening around you. Yes, these are catchwords which are being used, but more than anything else, accept what's happening within you. Because we are human, we are not perfect. We do have emotions and we should have emotions. We are expected to have emotions. So accept it. It's okay if you feel angry one day, if you feel sad one day, if you feel fearful of something, it's perfectly normal. Even if you think of a spider, somebody may be scared. It's okay. So the faster you accept yourself, the faster you accept that, this is how my mind works. This is how I am. It's easier for you to start accepting others. Otherwise, what would happen is you start suppressing all these emotions and you may not find yourself to be very happy. While you may tell everybody in the world, I'm good, I'm happy, underlying, you may not be so thrilled with yourself. And if that's not there, then building your relationship with other people may not be done at a very healthy, in a very healthy manner. Okay, so this is how our mind works. This is exactly how we work under stress or under anything where we are alerted with respect to our circumstances. Any doubts at this stage? I hope I've given you some insight as to how our brain works, how we think, how we work. Any doubts, any questions, queries? Yeah, I'll move on. Great. Okay, so this is how we all work, from children, childhood to adults to senior citizens to everybody. So what happens is we are aware of our emotions. But what happens to children? You find that many a times children are behaving in a manner which you may think, they're trying to gain your attention, wherein, they may shout, they may scream, they may whine, they may hold on to your leg, they may throw a tantrum, they may roll on the floor, and they may probably behave in a manner which you are disgusted with, you may not approve of, and you really wonder why they're creating a scene and embarrassing you. But why exactly do you think they're going through all this? It's very, if you look at it from a very superficial level, this is the behavior. But what's happening within? It's just that the child has got so many emotions going through them, and unlike us, they are not able to express it. So, many a times this has happened even in play school. It's even happened to my son. In fact, the first day he went to play school, he got bitten by another child. So he just came running and he said, I got bitten. The point is, why does some other child need to bite? Or why does a child need to hurt somebody or do something? It's just that at that point of time, the emotions that are within them are so overwhelming, they don't know how to express it. They just burst in different ways. It's like a dam bursting. Either they whine or they scream or they throw things. And all they need you to do is first and foremost for you to be calm, which is the most difficult part, because at that point of time, you are taken in by this wave of their behavior. And it's next to impossible for us to be very calm and say, okay, it's fine. My child is, behaving not in a very nice way, but there's some emotion that's happening behind it. So I need to understand what's happening. I need to take charge. And most importantly, let me try to know what is the feeling, what is the emotion. Let me be kind to the child. Just sit with the child, soothe the child out, figure out what's happening. And once you sort of gather the child with you and start talking, you can talk nonsense to the child. All they know is the tone that you use. All they know is, that you're saying something to them which is very soft. You could be talking rubbish for all they care, but they just need you to be with them, to keep talking to them in a soothing, calming manner. And once that happens, you can always ask them, what, are you feeling hungry? Would you like to eat something? Would you like to go somewhere else? It's very noisy here. Whatever it may be, you can then start relating to them. It's at this point that you sort of don't get too much into the behavior, but you start understanding that, okay, fine, I have to first calm my child down. To calm your child, you need to be calm. Like I said, you wear your oxygen mask, you can share you can put the oxygen mask for your child. And this is exactly how the circle of repair happens. And this happens at all ages. Take it from me, it's not that just because somebody is angry at an older age, it's because, they are able to show their anger. No, at all ages, even when we are angry, somebody bumps into my car, I'm going to get damn angry. The simple reason is because I'm not able to handle my own emotions. The entire, of course, you can all say probably, my ego comes in and whatever. Yes, but at the bottom line, it's because my emotions have taken over me. They have completely hijacked my logic and thinking, reasoning. Everything has gone out of the window. And all I need to do at that point of time is to behave in a manner which probably I'll regret later, or behave in a manner which may not be the best. So please do understand, as parents, we do want the best in our kids. We want our children to be model children. We want them to behave very well, especially when we are out of the house. But for that to happen, a lot of it goes on with how, we handle situations. And handling a situation, that's why it's called the circle of repair, is they need to know that despite everything, you still love them, you still are there for them, that you're still able to understand them, which is where you need to go into how they think. We need to move beyond the behavior, move beyond what is being exhibited, and try to understand their perspective, which is called a tuning. We tune into the state of mind of the child. What is it that the child is going through? And this is a very, very integral part of communication, because unless and until we do that, we cannot strike an emotional balance with them. We cannot relate to them at all. They just don't hear us at all. So the minute they are able to understand that, okay, my parents are there with me, they're talking to me softly, things will work. If you get angry, if you start shouting, or if you scream, or if you just walk out from there, none of these give reassurance to the child. None of this, makes the child feel that they are secure. So they start wondering what's happening, because they are not able to express their own emotions. They don't understand the emotions that you are exhibiting. So the entire scenario is going to lead to all of you being very upset. And that's not something that anyone would want. So you need to understand what actually happens. Even if the scenario is over, please come back and think as to what triggered off the whole thing, because you can avoid it at a later date. Okay, these are situations that happen in every household. So don't think that it's happening only to you, or it's, it's not happened to you as yet. We all go through this because we are human. We also have our own pile of emotions that we need to handle before we handle somebody else's. So there are times when we all scream, we all shout, we don't even understand what the child is going through, or what we ourselves are going through, and there can be a big commotion over there. So the circle of repair is very important, because when a child grows up, they are going to remember how and what you made of any incident. You can embarrass a child with an incident. You can make the same incident funny. You can make the same incident an incident of confidence. You can make the same incident an incident of fear. How do you interpret an incident? And how do you make that a lifelong memory? It's in your hands. So please do remember, the circle of repair is not only for the child, it's also for you. Because even if you behave badly, or even if things have not gone as you wanted and you feel that you need to repair it, you always have a chance. You always have a way of handling it in such a manner that the child is not impacted too badly. Am I clear? Do you think you want any more explanation on this? Shall I move on? Yeah. Okay, so now that we've come to the circle of repair, the next thing, which is a very, very important aspect for every individual, is the emotional cup. Here, I have only focused on the emotional cup of a child. Emotional cups are all things that we all have, and even as a child, we ourselves have gone through it. We all feel that there are times when your parents could have come home and you just want 2 seconds of their attention. So if your brother or sister is going to sit on your mother's lap, you probably yank them out and you will go and sit. Or you want to come first and show that you've drawn something in school. A lot of these things, if you start working on and you start seeing, are the emotions that are being exhibited by the child. So what is it that the child is trying to show? It's not so much as the attention that they want as that they want their emotions to be satisfied. And what is the basic emotion for them is just to feel happy, is to feel wanted by the parent, is to feel seen by the parent. And therefore, whenever you find that your child is, in your own terms, misbehaving, it is because their cup is empty. Especially when their cup is empty, you find that a lot of their behavior would be out of sync, out of normal, out of what they normally would be doing. And many times you may think, okay, fine, let me just hug the child. But there are children who pull away. They will pull away from a hug also. They'll pull away from you trying to give them that physical touch. It's not that they don't want the hug. It's just that they don't know what are the emotions that are going through them. They don't know what is it that they want. They are so confused within them that even a hug or a touch from you, they sort of just pull. So all you need to do is probably make them sit next to you and simply ask them a couple of things about themselves. You would have seen it even with your own child. You spend a few minutes with them as soon as you come back from wherever you are. They are happy. They just go away and they let you do your own work. All that is done at that point of time is you have given them that 2 minutes of attention, and you know that the child is happy, that the child knows that you're there. Now they don't bother you after that. So what are the things that would empty the cup's child, the child's cup, is especially when, when there are times when we tell the child, go have a bath, you keep yelling. And, somewhere the emotions of the child can get drained. If, having a bath could be one, doing something else could be another. So yelling, sometimes we end up giving them the silent treatment. We don't talk to them, we sort of reject them. They could be rejected even by their peers. Suddenly one day they go to school and nobody wants to be friends with them. And when they come back and you listen to this and you say, okay, fine, now nobody wants to be friends with my child, you may have gone through it, you react. All these things, fatigue a child. They start feeling exhausted. They don't even know what to do. So whenever a child acts out, please be aware that their emotional cups are empty. And in order to fill their cup, your cup has to be full. So always see to it that you have something in your cup before you start pouring it out. Because children can very easily sense the kind of emotions that you exhibit, whether they are genuine, whether you're putting on a show. They go with your tone, they go with your, the body language that you exhibit, which is all non-verbal. They just pick it up very, very quickly. So please be aware that anytime that you want to do something with your child, you are calm, you have your emotional balance with you, which means that your emotions are in your control. You know what you are thinking. You are ready to accept your child for what the child is thinking, for what the child is going through, and you are able to relate to that child and understand what's happening with them. You may not approve of what the child is going through. You may think that the child is upset over a very silly thing, very stupid thing. It's fine, but the child is upset. And that's something that we need to understand, we need to accept. It's something that the child is going through, and it's fine. It's their life. They are going through it, and we're just going to be there with them for that. So the emotional cup is very important, that we see our children's emotional cup to be complete, because as they say, empty vessels make the most noise. They make the maximum noise when their cups are empty. And that's a big sign that they are emotionally drained out. Yeah. So, and that's an emotional sign even for you. Even if you are suddenly feeling that you're shouting too much, you're not able to take too much load, you're tired out, you're exhausted, check your emotional cup. See whether, you're getting enough time with, maybe you like to spend time in the garden, maybe you like to spend time with yourself, with your spouse, with your parents, with somebody, or you just like to listen to some music. See to it that you are able to balance out your emotions, because unless we balance our emotions as parents, we cannot do the same with our children. And this is something that I'm repeating from the very, very, very beginning, because that's very important. We all come with a lot of baggage that we have picked up from our parents. And unconsciously, when we are angry, we tend to become a lot of things that we don't want to become. But we do become that. So to understand that, we need to fill our teacups. We need to fill our cups of joy. We need to have our emotional cup full. And as full as you can get, the better for you. Clear? Yeah. Okay, so we come to an activity that I would like all of you to do so that you're aware of what's happening with you. We can do it right now. We have the time, I hope, Kishan, to continue it. I seem to be exceeding the time limit. I hope all of you are fine. This is a very, very simple activity, which you can do with your child. You can do it with yourself. Anytime that you feel things are going out of hand, or just sitting simply, you're coming back from a walk, you're coming for a walk with your child, you're just sitting out in the balcony, you're sitting with your spouse, you're sitting with your mother, anybody. So what is SIFT? SIFT is just an acronym. So the first thing that we notice in SIFT is S stands for sensations. What are all the sensations that are going through you right now? What is it that's going through you? Do you've been sitting idle, maybe your feet are tingling, maybe there is, you're having a cold and your whole nose is burning. There could be a lot of things happening, or you're stressed out, there's a tightness in your shoulder, or you feel very weighed down, you're feeling heavy. What are the sensations that are going through you? These sensations can also come from smells. The sensations can also come from something that you've seen. So just notice all the sensations that are going through you at any point of time. Okay, once we notice these sensations, the next thing that you need to do is what are the images that arise. So for example, if I'm coming back after from work, and I'm super exhausted, I'm tired, I sort of feel very heavy, and there's a general lethargy, there's a tightness in all your muscles. You just don't feel like moving, you feel like sitting in one place. And that's probably the sensation that I get, is a heaviness which is there. And if I have to think of an image, I probably will feel, as though somebody's just pressing me down. It's like as though somebody's put a big boulder on my head and saying, sit. So, what are the images? You can have happy images, you can have sad images, you can have thrilling images. It's up to you. What are the images that come into your mind? And when we have sensations, when we have images, of course, you have feelings. So F stands for feelings. What are the feelings that you notice? There could be various layers of feelings. Like I showed you the feelings wheel, there could be various emotions also, because emotions are related to feelings. Emotions trigger out your feelings. You can write down every feeling that you're going through. You could be feeling bored, you could be feeling irritated, you could be feeling angry, you could be feeling tired out, you're exhausted, happy, whatever are your feelings. And along with all this come your thoughts. What is going on in your mind? So I could come back after a very tired day. I could be feeling heavy. I could be feeling as though somebody's, sitting on my head, and there's an image of somebody just sitting there. I could be feeling exhausted. But the thought that is in my mind is, I need to go and cook dinner, or I need to keep something ready, or I need to go and check on my child. And so that thought can be something which is pushing me to do some things as well. So as long as I'm, aware of all these things, you then start working on what's important for you. So SIFT is a game that you can play at any point of time. You can just jot it down on a piece of paper. Don't make it a mental game, because mental games don't help you in the long run. It's always nice to write it down, jot it down. Just quickly, you need to write down all these are my sensations, my images, my feelings, my thoughts. And once you're able to voice that out, you will be able to see, you'll come to terms with it much faster. Yeah, if you're completely stressed and completely down and out, yes, what happens to you when you're stressed and completely down? You're exhausted. There's no emotions, nothing left of you. You're drained. So what do you want to do? What are the images that come to you? What are the feelings that come to you? What is it that, Asha, you would like to do for yourself? Because unless you are ready to give, you're ready to take for yourself, you can't give. It's impossible that, you stretch yourself. Ultimately, what's going to happen is one day you snap. So how is it that you're going to manage your stress? Are you going to listen to some music? Are you going to just sit for 5 minutes with your eyes closed and breathe in and breathe out so that you bring a semblance of balance to yourself? Like they say, mindfulness is all about how, are you aware of yourself? Yes, I'm stressed. What am I stressed about? What are the top 3 things that are causing me stress? What is it that I can do about it? Start breaking it down. Start working on what it is. If you have the energy to do that, if you don't have the energy to do that, you just say, I'm stressed. I need 5 minutes to myself. I'm just going to listen to some calming music or something. What is it that gives you that peace of mind? This is something that you'll have to work on. So work on it. Find out what gives you peace of mind. Just 5-10 minutes with yourself is all you need. And if there is something which is pressing, say if you can outsource it, if you can ask somebody to heat up the food or whatever it is that is working with you, you want somebody to, get something for you, see what you can do. But if you are very stressed out, the chances of you blowing up are very high, or you breaking down also. Sometimes as parents, even we break down, we can also have an emotional upheaval. So being stressed is not going to help you in balancing others. It's only going to help in you understanding yourself. Yes, you have understood you're stressed. What are you doing about it? Okay, so that's how we need to take it from there. Yes, am I clear on this? So please, all of you, take this down, do this activity. It would really help you in being in touch with yourself, your sensations, your images, your feelings, your thoughts. Because once you start understanding yourself, you would also understand why you behave in a particular way. Why is it that you react in a particular way? Yeah, so this would really, really help you. Right? And finally, we come to what's called integrative communication. When I say integrative communication, it's the kind of communication which we have with our children, or even with our spouses, or with any relationship that we have. And for an integrative communication, our emotions need to be well within our control or well within our understanding. We need to accept our understanding. So be mindful of your feelings, your responses, especially our non-verbal signals. Because many a times we'll say, yeah, I'm good. And then you're lost. You're thinking about something else. You're worried about something else. You're staring into space. So there has to be a sync between what you say, what you do, what you think, what you feel, what your emotions are. And when you are in that kind of a state, so when your child comes home from school, you're waiting for your child to come home from school. You're waiting for your child to come and tell you something which happened in the school, because your excitement is very high and your child comes in dragging their feet. What happens to you? You are in a heightened state of excitement, waiting, first day school, child is coming back, yay. What happens? The child comes back and drags its feet, or you come back with a big basket of chocolates and you expect the child to be happy. The child is not happy. What happens to you? So be very, very mindful of your feelings. What is it that you are coming to the table with? What are the feelings that you go with? Okay, so if a child is very angry and beats someone, then how to make him or her realize? Okay, if a child is angry, now you realize that the child is angry. So there is an emotion which is there. The child is angry about something. That anger is due to something that has happened. So if you say that the child is angry, that they are not, they're upset about something, you need to ask them that, something is not okay, something is troubling you, something is worrying you. Are you angry about something? Because beating them is the behavior which is coming from an underlying need, which is something that they're missing out. There is a missing piece of the puzzle there, which you need to figure out. What is it that is causing the anger? Once you're able to figure out the anger, then you can tell them, what, next time this happens and you want something, you come and tell me, I will help you. So that's how you manage it. That's the emotional intelligence angle of it, where we tell them how to balance. You name the emotion first for the child. So if you look at Dr. Dan Siegel, and I think I've brought in a sift from Dr. Dan Siegel's, he actually tells you, he says, name it, keep naming the emotions till you tame it. It's actually called Name It Till You Tame It. You can look it out on YouTube. You can look it out on Google. You can understand how it is that you keep making the child aware. I am angry. I need to handle it. So this is anger. If I'm angry, mommy's told me to do something. So you start working at that level. The child needs to understand that they are angry about something, that there's something incomplete in them, that there's some need in them which needs to be satisfied. And that's all that you're looking at. What's the need? Satisfy the need, the cup is full, the anger vanishes. So that's all that we need to see. When we are in a balanced state, we can see all of it. If we are not, then there are repercussions to everything. So once we are in a balanced state, we would be able to see the state of mind of your child. So if you say that the child is angry, the child has beaten up somebody, he should not be doing something, then you need to first align your state of mind to the child. So the child is angry, you just sit with the child, figure out what's happening. Understand what is the experience, what is the point of view that he had, what is it that's going on in his mind. You have a response to it. You're super angry, you're super irritated, but at the same time, you don't want your child to react in that manner. So you need to first respect what the child is going through. Yes, he is angry, he is not, behaved in the best of manners. You need to understand, okay, fine, I am not happy with the way he's behaved. However, let's understand what he is going through. Let me first relate to it. So let me give you a simple example. Okay, so when my son was around 6-7 years old, I had promised him to take him to the movies. And as soon as I told him we have got tickets, his first reaction was, "Will you buy me popcorn?" I said, "No, I'm not buying you popcorn." And he was very upset. He immediately pouted and he was sitting in a corner. And I was half mind to tell him, "What, you don't want popcorn, don't come for the movie." But then, you sort of wonder as to what was the, what's happening. You took a step back. I took a step back and I was thinking about it. And I realized that the last time we went for the movies, we had a brilliant time. We had a very nice time and I bought popcorn for him. So he wanted to, do the same thing again. He wanted the same popcorn and he wanted to have a good time again. And he had associated a good movie with good popcorn and that, this would follow suit. And if I indulged him and I was worried that if I continue doing this, I'm going to indulge him. So that was my thought process. I can't keep buying popcorn for him every time and indulge him. He's going to get spoiled. And that's not the behavior I would want. So that's the reason why I said no. And I didn't like his reaction. But at the same time, I had to take a step back, think about it and say, fine, he seems upset. So I went to him and I said, you seem to be a little disappointed that you're not getting popcorn. So his first reaction was, okay, fine, this, mother of mine is coming and talking something to me. He said, yeah, I wanted. I said, yeah, it's a little disappointing. Why don't we just watch the movie and see how it is? We'll just take it from there and see what happens. So gradually, what I was doing, I was talking to him, I was telling him that he is disappointed. Disappointed was the emotion that he was feeling. And that's where I sort of started relating to him. I started talking to him and trying to see, okay, fine, as a child, he is disappointed. I'm not going to immediately say, you know what, Baba, I'm going to buy you one popcorn. No, I don't want to do that. But I want him to understand that disappointment is part and parcel of the game also. That there are times you're going to be disappointed. I understand you're disappointed, but let's move ahead and watch the movie. Okay. So what I ended up doing was trying to relate to him. I respected what he was going through because that's what he wanted. He thought it's a good time. And I was able to talk to him both verbally as well as non-verbally with my body language, with the way I spoke to him, that it's okay. Let's just go ahead. It's a disappointment. Let's just move ahead and see it. And therefore, we both had a brilliant time. We had a very good time because he sort of accepted it. He said, okay, fine, this is okay. And we went on. So integrated communication is all about that. You looking at the other person, understanding the state of mind they're in. You have certain, ways of looking at them and saying, this is not the way I want them to react, or this is not the way I want them to behave. But then you also learn to respect what they are going through because that's what they expect. And whether it's right or wrong, they are expecting it. So once you respect that, you sort of externalize what's going on within you and say, okay, fine, you are disappointed. Let me come to that. Let there be communication. Never cut your channels of communication, because the minute you cut your channel of communication, you're cutting your channel of emotions also. So the minute you stop talking to your child, you're stopping all formats of emotion between the two of you. And emotions are very essential for a human relationship. You cannot have a relationship where emotions are not involved. They are sustained, they are built on emotions. So please respect the emotions of your child, respect your own emotions. All our emotions are unique. We need to work with all of them put together. And that's how it works. What if both, Ansalata, what if both child in front of you, then whom should we reach first? I'm sorry, Ansalata. I'm unable to relate to your question. Is it possible for you to tell me? Are you talking about one child getting beaten and one child beating? Are you saying that that's the same? And who do you handle first? Let's say you have two children who are in a fight in front of you, right? So, okay. So let me get from you. What is it that you would do? Let's start working, because you have seen the scene. You have learned how to handle it. What is it that you did? Because our automatic reaction is to scream, shout, and stop the entire episode. So what is it that we do? The two of them are beating each other up, or is one of them beating? How does it work? If both of them are beating up, then you just separate them. If one is beating and the other is getting hit, then either which ways you need to sort of say, you know what, if the two of you don't know how to, play with each other, I'm going to put you in two separate rooms and then just separate them for the time being. You need to spend time with each of them and figure out what's happening. Especially if one is beating the other, there could be a lot of emotional baggage which is happening, especially if they're siblings. There could be a lot of sibling rivalry. So just start working with one of them to try and understand what's happening. Maybe he took something of his, or something could be there. Split them up for the time being, send one for a bath, or send one somewhere else. Just split them up. It's better you don't try to reprimand them or shout at them or even pick up the incident then and there, because that will not sort out the issue. It's like as you're taking sides, and taking sides does not help you. So very honestly, yes, it's sometimes very difficult when we see our children fighting, but divide them up, divide and rule, divide them out, talk to each of them separately, give them your time with them and try to figure out what's happening, what went on in their mind. What is it that triggered it off? What was the emotions that were playing? Because each of them would definitely have a justification for why they did something, because each is right in their own way. It's not important to see who's right and wrong. It's just important to see what happened and how do you stop this from happening the next time around. And as siblings, these things are going to happen. So how are you going to manage it? Yeah. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. So what we have covered is quite a bit. We have gone through emotions, what emotions are, the circle of security, how we provide security for our children, how is it that we allow them to explore, and at the same time tell them that we are there. Our emotional cups, the emotional cups of our children. SIFT, which is an activity which you can do with your child alone or with any relationship that you want to develop, and integrative communication. Yes. I hope it has been very useful for you, because I really enjoyed interacting with all of you. And before I leave, there is another set of activities or some things that I'd like to do with you. So we have 9 emotions here. And even when we watch a movie, we see emotions, we see the way people, exhibit what they're going through and what they say, their facial expressions. And so we have expressions here. So one of the simplest things is try to guess what emotions are going through people. It's a nice game to play. And if you get it right, you feel very thrilled, because that means you're able to relate to them. So see if you can relate to these people. Take any emotion. Sometimes even just watch your face on the mirror, or see if you're able to decipher it as you want. It's a nice game to play. And the other thing which you can do as far as developing your relationships is making a mind map. We make mind maps for a lot of things, especially academics. Mind maps with respect to relationships are very crucial, because that helps you in understanding what works and what does not work in a relationship. So especially if you're looking at very close relationships, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, what is it that, when we look at each relationship, we look at their appearance, their personality. What is it that you do with them? What are the activities you do with them? How do you get along with them? You can probably make your own mind map. You can say, what is it that irritates you about them, or what is it that, so when you find something that is not positive, work on that. Find out what is it that troubles you? What is it that you're not able to get through to? Because you're building a relationship, and relationships need to be built with mutual understanding. There has to be a degree of trust. And of course, there is a lot of underflow of emotions that are there. So if you're able to figure it out, it will help in building your relationships too. And you will then be balanced. You know that you are handling it well. Your emotional balance is complete. You don't need to worry about a thing. Yeah. So
okay. That's great, Anupama. That was really wonderful. It was really good. A lot of emotions in last 1 hour. Good. I am sure that most of us have got a lot of understanding as to what is emotions and how to handle it and all. And I see a lot of questions also coming, and you were able to handle it really very good. Thanks, Anupama. And
thanks, Kishan,
number on the screen. You're always welcome to dial. Yeah,
anytime.
You can always dial a number for any of the things. Yeah, and thanks, Anupama, and let's look forward for more such sessions. And I'm sure that even participants are very happy about it. Sangram, if you want to share any of your words, probably.
It was really a wonderful session, and we also learned a lot of things, how to handle our child in a better way. It was really, I think, all the participants, they have got some clues how to handle their child. Thank you very much, Anupama. It was really wonderful session.
Thank you so much, Sangram and Kishan. And a wonderful audience. I really need to thank you, without which today's session would just not have happened and went the way it did. So thank you to each and every one of you. My details are here. If you feel like getting in touch with me, please feel free to contact me at any point of time. Thank you so much.
It's just that I was just thinking that right now we all will be jumping from emotional cup to a teacup to cherish all the information what Anupama gave.
Yeah.
Right.
Great, Anupama. That was really good.
Right. So
Yes.
Thanks for all.
Yeah.
And,
thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.